You arrogant little asshole. Look at this goddamn mess. Everywhere you go, destruction follows. Because of your ego. You're a hypocrite, waltzing off to help your mass-murdering dad. But God forbid anyone else screws up, and then tries to make good. Don't you ever threaten me again. As for the rest of you...
On my mama, you got me fucked up, cause when the fuck you see me on Hi-Hi and Kiki with my pops, nigga, don't gaslight me, you just made that shit up. You know goddamn well don't nobody hate my daddy more than me, bitch. He the last nigga I wanna see breathing free air. He beat my ass on live TV. I wanna get my get back too. Shit. He lucky Oliver and his people were there, cause otherwise I would've been 4v1 on Thrax. I promise you, nigga, I would've jumped his ass with the rest of the Viltrumites. You must think my last name is Grayson, pussy, nigga. Hey, Rudy. Hey, show me your computer, man. I need to make sure you deleted all them pictures of Monster Girl.
Oh, fuck.
I feel like this scene gets misinterpreted a lot. Because why do I see so many people online saying that Mark forgave Nolan? Or that Mark is hypocritical for being, morally lenient on Omni-Man for, what he did, as opposed to how he feels about Darkwing and Sinclair. That is never, people are misinterpreting this scene and they parrot the same thing that Cecil says, not understanding why Cecil is saying this in this moment. Because from the viewer's perspective, we supposedly should know, based on everything we've seen up until the end of season 3, Mark never forgave Nolan, right? You're a hypocrite, waltzing off to help your mass murdering dad, but God forbid anyone else screws up and then tries to make good. This single line gave a lot of people the wrong idea, right? Because this line makes sense for Cecil in this moment, right? He's angry, he's pissed off at Mark, right? He's angry and he's scared of him, right? So you're not only seeing that, this emotional reaction from Cecil, but it's also a blatant display of his manipulation, because he knows that's not the truth. He knows that's not the full truth, right? He's using this against Mark, even though it doesn't make any sense, because he's trying to retain a semblance of control over him, because he's so afraid of him, right? Cecil knows enough to understand that Mark isn't Nolan, and 2, his morals wouldn't allow him to actually forgive Nolan, and he's never done anything to indicate that he's forgiven him, right? Even though Cecil doesn't know the full context of what happened on Thraxa, right? He knows the general play-by-play, right? He doesn't see everything that the viewer saw. He only knows a paraphrase summary at best. But we know that Mark never forgave him. Mark is a hypocrite. He exhibits some very problematic ideologies in this season, right? Due to how traumatized he's been, mainly by Omni-Man, right? He is hypocritical and has very black and white views so far about incarcerating criminals, right? We know that. But when it comes to forgiving Omni-Man, we know that he's not a hypocrite when it comes to that. He in no way, shape, or form, all of his actions in seasons 2 and 3 are informed by how much he is going the opposite way of Omni-Man. And here's the thing, the other misinterpreted scene is this where Mark sees Nolan for the first time in months, and he has a visceral, automatic emotional reaction. His body moved on its own. He had a very human reaction in that moment, right? Like people forget, Nolan was an amazing father to Mark for 17 years of his life, right? All leading up to that one day that he learned that he was a monster, right? But up until then, his childhood, his formative years, like, he has this image of his dad, right, that got shattered, but it's still there. So it's a very conflicting, barrage of emotions that Mark is feeling when it comes to his father, and we see it on display here. But this in no way, shape, or form tells us anything about his moral stance on his father. As a matter of fact, we explicitly hear his moral stance when it comes to his father in the immediate following dialogue of this scene, and the rest of the episode that plays out on Thraxa. All of his interactions with Nolan, regarding Nolan, it tells us no, he is not forgiven Nolan. But I see this idea parroted online so much. I don't understand, right? Another scene is when Mark and Oliver and Eve are all talking, and Oliver's opening up about how he feels about Omni-Man, how he feels about, or like how he sees his father, and opening up about his memories about his father, and how people are, I guess people criticize how Mark is handling the conversation, kind of criticizing his words or criticizing the sentiment. Like, he's soft, like when he's talking about Nolan, he has a softer tone than when he's talking about Sinclair and Darkwing to Cecil. And I think that's just a really dumb oversimplification, and like that doesn't, like, that removes all sense of context from the conversation, and like you're using that to make a really misrepresentative point, right? First of all, if you look at what Mark is saying to Oliver, he's still criticizing Nolan's actions. There is no forgiveness to what he's saying, and he's saying he understands the people that will never forgive him, that hate him because of the lives he's ruined. But not only that, think of the context. He's talking to another son of Omni-Man. He's talking to someone who shares something that both Mark and Oliver share, is that they both have very fond memories of their father being a very good person, when they were kids, right? So Mark is trying to appeal to that, because the main goal of this conversation is to really teach Oliver basic morality and right from wrong, teaching him like how to be responsible with his powers. Like, that's the main goal of this. So this is the best way for him to approach the conversation with the softer tone, to really get him to like psychologically prime him to understand and to really latch on to these ideas that Mark and Debbie have been trying to teach him, right? And what him and Eve are trying to get into his head in this scene, right? So like using that as a point to be like, Mark's a hypocrite, he's not talking this softly about Darkwing and Sinclair, like that doesn't make any sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And two, when Mark was talking to Cecil about them, he's talking to someone who has the direct power to make sure those two individuals see justice, right? Like 2 seconds after he was just interacting with those individuals, right? And in this situation with Oliver, he's talking to his younger brother, a fucking kid, mind you, a child, about an individual who isn't even in the same galaxy as them right now, who, even if he was in the same galaxy, none of them have the power to even show that person the justice, right? So it's not the same situation, not at all. Cecil is directly the one enabling these two individuals to operate freely in quotation marks, because they're still under state supervision. But when he's talking to Oliver, he's talking to someone who is not in that position, right? he's trying to convince this person to believe. I'm over explaining this, really, because this doesn't necessitate this level of explanation. Further proof to indicate that this was not a logical assessment that Cecil made, and it was purely a emotional one and a desperate attempt to cling on to his control via manipulation of Mark. You just have to look at the whole interaction as a whole, right? Starting from the end of episode 1. Look at how the interaction started. Mark pulls up to the Pentagon and confronts Cecil, right? Look at how quickly into the conversation Cecil gets up, right? At this point, he has already made the decision to go to the White Room, right? At that point, things were not very escalated. Mark was using, he was clearly very adamant at this point, but there were no threatening vibes here, right? And this just shows you how much, and this is very, very reasonable reaction, right, for Cecil to have. Just very little show of aggression scares him so much because he's seen what a Viltrumite is capable of, right? He has not felt this fear with any other hero that he employs, right? This gives you insight to the emotional state that Cecil is in. He is operating out of fear at this point, right? Not a logical, rational decision-making base, right? This is pure survival instinct. This is just self-preservation at this point. And then look at all the irrational decisions he makes throughout this whole interaction, from the White Room leading up to the confrontation at Guardians HQ, right? First of all, he didn't have to tell Mark about the earpiece, right? He could have kept him in the dark about that. He should have. That only escalated the situation even further. That is microcosm of how Cecil has failed in this whole interaction. He does not know how to, he fails miserably at de-escalating this situation time and time and time again, right? And that seems very uncharacteristic of Cecil, and that just shows you the emotional state that he's in at this point. He's directly reacting to Mark's emotions, right? Like, why is he chasing him? There's no reason for it. Like, he leaves the Pentagon. He's afraid of what he's going to do, right? He literally just told him moments before, go home, right? And then Mark leaves, right? But at this point, right, all of a sudden, that's not good enough for Cecil. He needs to follow him. Why? Once he realizes that Mark is headed to Guardians HQ, he's afraid and he doesn't want them involved. Why? They're going to find out regardless. What was Cecil trying to achieve by delaying Mark? And then once he's at Guardians HQ, everything he does is a complete fail at de-escalation. Like Cecil is a very intelligent character, right? So this is a red flag. Like these are very dumb decisions, right? This tells us what's going on in his brain. Like, he's not acting out of a rational base. All this is to say that when Cecil is saying, or implying, I suppose, that Mark has forgiven Nolan because he went and helped him on Thraxa, that is a gross misrepresentation of what actually happened, right? It does a disservice to the truth, and he knows that, and the audience should know that. People are missing the point when it comes to this. But that's enough yapping though. Take care. I'm out.